Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In our previous episode, just as the giant Lord de Gruel was about to kill Luminous, Storm Dragon Veldora made a dramatic entrance, crossing time and space to block de Gruel's fist and save Luminous. In this episode, we turn our attention to Sarion. Faced with the rampaging Milim, what challenges will Rimuru encounter? The battlefield of Sarion is filled with powerful beings. How will Rimuru deal with them? After a brief hiatus, Ciel will resume distributing ultimate skills. So, let's get started. Returning to the moment before Veldora's arrival, Rimuru and Guy faced the relentless blizzard unleashed by Frost Dragon Velzard. To rescue Milim, Rimuru cautiously advanced through the storm. Despite carefully considering the severity of the situation, things escalated beyond his worst expectations. Feldway also appeared on the scene. The current Feldway exuded an overwhelming presence, his pressure easily surpassing Michael's. Even for Rimuru, victory was uncertain. Worse still, Feldway was ruthlessly commanding the rampaging Milim, ordering her to use her power to destroy the divine tree in Sarion. Rimuru glanced at Milim, who, to his dismay, obediently followed Feldway's order and began moving towards Sarion. Ciel quickly informed Rimuru that this was the power of Lord of Justice's ability, Regalia Dominion. Rimuru was overwhelmed. This far exceeded his worst-case scenario. Ciel mentioned a small silver lining: Feldway himself couldn't fully control Milim. Even with all his power, he could only give her very basic commands. Nonetheless, the situation was dire. Feldway's actions remained as puzzling as ever. Instead of ordering Milim to attack Rimuru, he commanded her to destroy the divine tree. Moreover, Feldway expressed strong dissatisfaction with the arrival of Rimuru and Guy, and after giving his orders, he left the scene. Ciel clearly couldn't fully understand Feldway's intentions either. She analyzed that perhaps Feldway's control over Milim was highly unstable, leaving him with no capacity for other actions, or he prioritized attacking the divine tree. Rimuru quipped that Milim always boasted about being immune to control, only to be proven wrong. Ciel explained that Milim probably lost her resistance to control due to her berserk state, which made her an easy target for Feldway. Ciel even praised Feldway, noting that while Milim's rampage could endanger the entire world, Feldway skillfully used Regalia Dominion to some extent control her, reducing the risk. This bold gamble, which seemed almost impossible, was successfully executed by Feldway. But at this point, delving into Feldway's plans was futile. The tree Milim was set to attack was the massive ancient tree that encompassed the entire capital of Sarion, not only safeguarding Sarion but also stabilizing the world's magicule and preventing natural disasters. Guy interjected, remarking on Feldway's consistent cunning, and stating that joining Rimuru in this fight was indeed the right choice. Rimuru realized that if he hadn't persuaded Guy to join, he would be alone now, facing Milim, Velzard, and Feldway, likely resulting in his death. With Guy present, Rimuru could focus on stopping Milim. Guy naturally positioned himself against Velzard, while Rimuru pursued Milim, urgently trying to contact Elmesia, but to no avail. A sense of foreboding flashed through Rimuru's mind. He immediately tried to contact Benimaru while continuously attacking Milim to draw her attention and hinder her progress. However, even Rimuru's powerful attacks had no effect on Milim. There was no time to complain as Milim's roar alone unleashed incredible destructive power, likely disintegrating molecules through sonic vibrations. Rimuru barely dodged, and the landscape below evaporated in an instant. Rimuru felt troubled. Milim was way too overpowered. Ciel then proposed a battle plan, albeit with a low success rate. With little time left before reaching Sarion, Rimuru had no choice but to place all his bets on Ciel. He quickly relayed the plan and orders to Benimaru, whom he had just managed to contact. Switching perspectives to Sarion, the city was in an unprecedented crisis. In desperation, Elmesia asked her mother Sylvia if Rimuru would come to their aid. It's worth noting that Rimuru is Elmesia's nickname for Rimuru, roughly meaning my beloved Rimuru. Sylvia replied that Demon Lord Milim had gone berserk, and Rimuru had gone to stop her. This unexpected turn of events left Elmesia feeling shocked and anxious. Meanwhile, the city, protected by the divine tree, was under fierce attack by Jahil, creating a hellish scene. To make matters worse, Jahil was not alone. Zalario was by his side. Thus, the battlefield in Sarion was in utter chaos. Despite the city's defense mechanisms being fully activated and the magical troop known as Magus being fully deployed, their efforts were proving futile against the overwhelming power of the attackers. Jahil's attacks were random and indiscriminate, fitting his personality perfectly. Even so, these attacks were too powerful for anyone except Sylvia and Elmesia to withstand. It's worth noting that Magus were essentially mech-like suits that Elmesia had spent a fortune and considerable time amassing, totaling around 300 units. Sylvia declared that it was time for them to act. In Sarion, Sylvia and Elmesia were the strongest, and the reason they hadn't yet intervened was due to the objections of the elders and ministers. Years ago, they hadn't stopped hero Sarion, who later became Laplace, resulting in the powerful hero never returning. Deploying the Magus units was a strategy to protect Sylvia, Elmesia, and other key figures. If Sylvia and Elmesia joined the battle, the soldiers' efforts would be in vain. However, as heavenly emperors, Sylvia and Elmesia couldn't be swayed by the ministers' objections. Though the ministers were inwardly despairing, they knew that at this point, only Sylvia and Elmesia could handle the situation. To provide more detail here, Elmesia was not weak. Like her mother, she had awakened an ultimate skill, the highest tier of weather-based abilities, Lord of Heavenly Wind. Elmesia, a genius in combat, wielded the mythical weapon Circular Blade Chakram. With these two formidable figures stepping onto the battlefield once more, despite going against everyone's wishes, they steered the course of destiny toward a more hopeful path. Benimaru, Ciel, Leon, Kagali, and Tia arrived in Sarion after Sylvia and Elmesia had already returned to the battlefield. By this time, Sylvia was engaged in a fierce battle with Jahil, while Elmesia faced off against Zalario. Thanks to their efforts and the city's defense mechanisms, they managed to keep everyone safe, although many were injured and everyone was exhausted. When the reinforcements from Rimuru arrived, Elmesia was deeply moved and praised both Rimuru and Benimaru. Benimaru assured her that Rimuru-sama always keeps his promises. He then turned his gaze to Zalario and Jahil in the distance. To allow Elmesia to rest, Leon swiftly moved to confront Zalario, his mythical weapon Flame Pillar shining with a formidable aura. Ciel stealthily positioned himself behind Zalario. Meanwhile, Kagali, burning with anger, confronted her nemesis Jahil alongside Sylvia, with Tia by her side. Both sides formed a standoff. If they could defeat Jahil and Zalario, the Magus troops could gain the upper hand and push back the Death Man and Phantom armies. However, Benimaru knew things wouldn't be that simple and continued to analyze the battlefield with a fearless smile. Leon, facing off against Zalario, showed no outward emotion, but inside he was seething with anger. Leon was often misunderstood because of his reserved nature, and his actions were frequently misinterpreted, leading to resentment. Among the few who understood him were his mentor Sylvia and his self-declared ally Elmesia. Seeing them suffer infuriated Leon. Furthermore, he had recently been controlled by these foes, causing trouble for Sylvia. Rimuru's defeat of their leader Michael had also left Leon deeply indebted to Rimuru. If he couldn't repay that debt in this battle, he would feel utterly humiliated. Additionally, with Velzard and the Berserk Milim approaching, failing to deal with these opponents would spell disaster for Sarion and put Leon's own country at risk. From every angle, Leon had to give his all, even if it meant risking his life. Leon angrily confronted Zalario, denouncing Feldway's use of Milim's berserk state to create chaos as a despicable tactic. As he spoke, he slowly raised his sword, pointing it at Zalario. When Leon fought with all his might, he abandoned his golden shield, the gold circle, in favor of extreme speed and focused his most powerful sword techniques on a single point. With his ultimate skill, Lord of Purity, Leon could manipulate spiritrons, allowing him to unleash the strongest particle disintegration repeatedly, making him nearly invincible. Despite having fewer existence points than Zalario, Leon's combat abilities were sufficient to handle him for a certain time. Zalario, a true warrior, acknowledged this point, and thus complained that he, too, didn't fully understand Feldway's intentions. Zalario mentioned that Feldway's plan was supposedly to seize Veldora's dragon factor, but the exact nature of Feldway's thoughts was a mystery to him, and it seemed Velzard was acting on her own. Zalario also wanted a proper explanation of the current chaotic situation. Feldway indeed hadn't explained his plans to Zalario, who was merely following orders reluctantly. Jahil, too, was directed to Sarion's battlefield despite his resentment towards Luminous. Zalario had to convince himself that attacking Sarion must have some significance, but as a general, this treatment was infuriating. Previously unable to resist Michael's control, Zalario had reluctantly accepted this state of affairs. However, with Michael's death and no increased control from Feldway, Zalario was gradually breaking free from this control. Though he wouldn't share these thoughts with his opponent, he shifted the topic, acknowledging that Leon seemed intent on challenging him and inquiring if Suwei, hiding in the shadows, planned to join the fray. Hearing this, Suwei realized he had been exposed and stepped forward. Suwei politely stated that, given their desperate situation, they would use any means necessary to achieve victory. He openly declared his intent to use any tactics necessary, setting the stage for a coordinated attack on Zalario, with Leon as the primary attacker and Suwei as the support. Turning to Jahil's side, Sylvia, Kagali, and Tia each played their roles, launching a fierce assault on him. Surprisingly, Tia was the most aggressive, shouting insults at Jahil to avenge her comrade footman. She hurled her massive scythe, Ter's scythe, like a boomerang. This weapon, crafted by Kurobe, was of the highest legendary grade, almost touching the realm of mythical weapons. Its name did not signify harvesting lives but rather wiping away tears, which Tia found fitting and gratefully accepted. The Ter's scythe flew towards Jahil with a will of its own. Simultaneously, Tia vanished from sight, quickly closing in on Jahil and delivering a powerful punch to his abdomen before swiftly retreating, catching her scythe in midair, and returning to Kagali's side to protect her master. This was Tia's unique skill, Manipulator, obtained after merge with Clayman's core, which allowed her to completely control her body to execute her attacks. Another of Tia's unique skills, Optimist, could triple her physical abilities under certain conditions but only against opponents weaker than herself. This limitation was due to Tia's weak self-awareness. However, when the infant that formed the Clayman core was bestowed upon Tia by Ciel, Tia underwent a transformation. She grew stronger, determined to protect Kagali on her own in the absence of Laplace and Footman. In that moment of resolve, she heard a voice offering to grant her power if she agreed to certain conditions. This voice, unmistakably, belonged to Ciel. It was a mechanism Ciel had set up while analyzing Tia during her sleep, designed to respond to Tia's desire for power in the future. Ciel had thoroughly analyzed Tia's capabilities and deemed them harmless. Combining them with Clayman's abilities posed no threat. Believing that Tia would be more beneficial as a stronger ally, Ciel established this mechanism. Naturally, Tia accepted the power without hesitation and underwent an evolution. Her unique skill Optimist and Clayman's unique skill Manipulator merged into the ultimate enchantment Optimistic Performer. With her will, or perhaps Ciel's assistance, Tia was reborn. It's important to note that Ciel granted her an ultimate enchantment rather than an ultimate gift, indicating that this power was bestowed through the Lord of Justice system. The condition Tia had to agree to had already been accepted by her master, Kagali. Similarly, Kagali's unique skill Planner, imprinted deep in her soul, was also enhanced. During a dream, Kagali heard an inexplicable voice offering her power. Naturally, the speaker was Ciel. The proposal was to strengthen Kagali's capabilities, making her more powerful without posing any threat to Rimuru-sama. Even in the case of betrayal, Ciel had fully analyzed Kagali's power, and could nullify it any time. Thus, balancing interest and benefit, Ciel made this offer with the condition that Kagali couldn't use the power against Rimuru-sama. Desperately craving power and being in a dreamlike state, Kagali accepted the proposal without hesitation. This was uncharacteristic of the usually cautious Kagali, but the condition was straightforward, and Kagali had no intention of opposing Rimuru at all, so she saw no downside. Upon awakening, Kagali gained the power ultimate enchantment, Book of Prophecy. This ability was highly effective against Jahil, allowing her to predict his every move. Ciel was pleased, having gained full knowledge of both individuals' abilities. This situation also demonstrated that Ciel had completely decoded the Lord of Justice's abilities, enabling her to modify skills using the Lord of Justice network without needing the Soul Corridor. Essentially, Ciel's ultimate skill distribution network had expanded significantly. Returning to the battlefield, Jahil felt a surge of irritation. Both Tia and Kagali seemed to have grown stronger. Jahil furiously unleashed 2 massive fireballs. Sylvia aside, Jahil believed Kagali and Tia couldn't possibly evade such an attack. This strike was sure to obliterate their souls. However, reality wasn't that simple. Their figures flickered and vanished, only to reappear at a distance. Jahil was taken aback. According to his understanding, these two shouldn't possess such abilities. To resolve his confusion, he carefully launched another fireball attack, but once again, Kagali and Tia vanished. The reason for this turn of events was Benimaru, using his ultimate skill, Lord of Shimmering Flame, and its authority, will control. This allowed the entire team to act with unified intent, displaying optimal performance while nullifying Jahil's attacks at critical moments. Benimaru's judgment, Kagali's foresight, Sylvia's agility, and Tia's resolute determination combined seamlessly. No matter how powerful Jahil's evil forces were, they couldn't easily overwhelm their opponents now. Jahil, prone to losing his cool in battle, didn't realize that Benimaru was the core of their defense, angrily shouting and hurling fireballs in vain. If it were Zalario, Benimaru's tactics would have been quickly seen through. Both Sylvia and Kagali felt a sense of ease and reliability in cooperating with Benimaru. The synergy was extraordinary, making Kagali marvel at how formidable Rimuru's forces were beyond just Rimuru himself. It's important to note that if Benimaru were to face Jahil alone, with their abilities belonging to the same system, Benimaru currently lacked the decisive power needed to defeat Jahil, no matter how strategically he fought. Jahil grew increasingly agitated, shouting accusations of trickery. Benimaru's goal was to provoke Jahil into making mistakes. Jahil, now unstable, aimlessly launched fireballs. Sylvia quickly noticed an opening and lengthened her mythical weapon, Vajra, into a spear, impaling Jahil. Although this wouldn't kill Jahil, it allowed the team to breathe a sigh of relief. Their morale soared, and with Benimaru coordinating their efforts, they felt certain of their victory. Meanwhile, in the midst of his battle with Leon and Sue, Zalario cast a sidelong glance at Jahil's situation and was utterly shocked. By sheer power alone, Jahil was even stronger than Zalario, yet he was being suppressed by lower-ranked opponents. Zalario quickly understood the situation. It was because Benimaru was too powerful. Though Benimaru wasn't directly fighting, he consistently provided crucial support at key moments. Yes, Benimaru and Jahil's abilities belonged to the same system, meaning Benimaru could accurately anticipate Jahil's moves and nullify his attacks at critical moments. However, Zalario deduced that Jahil would soon find a way to counteract. Despite Jahil's temper, he was undeniably smart, or rather, an exceptionally strong warrior. If Jahil decided to unleash a full-force attack without holding back, even if Benimaru's method of interfering with Magicule was superior, it still wouldn't be enough to withstand it. Hence, Benimaru opted for a more subtle approach, only intervening at critical moments, allowing Jahil to rampage unchecked. This way, the hot-headed Jahil would believe he had control over the battlefield, preventing the situation from escalating into an all-out, overwhelming attack. Zalario silently admired Benimaru's strategy, and regarded him as a significant threat. Alright, that's all for this video. After defeating Michael, Rimuru, or rather Ciel, showcased her abilities for the first time. If you recall, previously, whether it was modifying Veldrein's skills or severing Leon's control circuit, it required devouring the opponent into imaginary space and obtaining their consent before proceeding. However, in the case of modifying Kagali and Tia, it was Ciel who single-handedly proposed the conditions and performed the modifications. Throughout the battle in Sarion, Ciel was very active, and we will see more of this in the next 2 episodes. Sarion, as an ancient nation, has its ruling authority firmly established with Elmesia and Sylvia at the helm. However, internal strife among the various families under them was severe, possibly due to prolonged peace. This war has united these families against a common enemy. The novel describes this aspect in detail, which I haven't covered here. For those interested, I recommend reading this part of the novel. Lastly, Benimaru's leadership was intricately displayed here, and there will be even more detailed descriptions in the next episode. In our next episode, Zalario will completely sever ties with Feldway, and Ciel will showcase her bug-level skills again. Meanwhile, Rimuru and Guy will go all out to minimize Milim's destruction on the battlefield. The next episode will be equally exciting. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.